Hello everyone, welcome to the advanced series of ServiceDesk Plus Masterclass 2022. We're in the second season and this is our first episode. And in this episode, we're going to see how you can create user responsive or dynamic templates using ServiceDesk Plus, which can assist your service desk teams in collecting information from users. I'm Steffi Benjamin here from the User Educator team. So, the agenda for this session is we're going to learn how you can configure and deploy dynamic templates for critical IT practices such as incidents, service requests, and changes. And then we'll see how you can create custom templates for other IT practices such as releases and modules, releases and projects. And finally, we'll see how you can create templates for supporting modules like tasks, resolutions, and replies. So, with this in mind, we'll go ahead and see about Zilker. So, Zilker is a growing technology company with 8,000 plus employees spread across multiple sites, and they've adopted a hybrid work model. Now, Zilker is looking to handle its ITSM processes efficiently. But so far, Zilker has been dependent on legacy tools such as Excel sheets or even emails to meet its ITSM needs. Now, the problem with these legacy tools is that there is no way to collect information contextually. And imagine having a huge 8,000 plus employees every day. You would get anywhere between 1,000 to 6,000 emails in case of major incidents or even minor incidents. And handling all of these incidents or service requests through email alone would be very hard. And technicians would not have a way to track the progress of various requests or involve other stakeholders in process and keep all their tasks tracked. So, what could Zilker risk by being dependent like this? Is that number one, when it comes to incident management, there is obviously delayed resolution of incidents. So, when you're tracking multiple tasks or requests through just emails or other simple tools, you could end up missing through incidents and they could fall through your cracks unnoticed. And obviously, there is no proper assignment of priority. Users would feel that their incident or their issue needs the higher priority or is more important, and so that the service desk team will not have a standard way of measuring how actually important an incident is. And finally, there is no proper routing of incidents to the right experts. And when it comes to service request management, as we are aware of, service requests are raised because users want some kind of resource or a service from the organization. And if adequate or proper data is not given to the service desk team, they could end up providing the wrong resource or the wrong service. So, Zilka was suffering with inadequate and erroneous data, and there was a delayed approval for request because, again, depending on legacy tools, means we cannot keep a track of what is required when. And because of all of this, there is a constant back and forth between the service desk team and the end users, and in some cases, between service desk team and the approvers. And finally, when it comes to change management, Zilker was treating all changes similarly. And for any of you who are familiar with change management, you would know that different types of changes require different workflows. So, a standard change cannot be treated similar to a critical change or an emergency change. And if you do that, you could end up risking maximized risk, risking affecting your business during deployment or increasing the business downtime. Now enter ServiceDesk Plus. What could Zilka gain by using a tool like ServiceDesk Plus? Now, when it comes to incidents, there is a swift resolution of incidents because if you have all your data in one place and if you are able to track the data, you can obviously deliver the solutions faster. And there is an accurate assignment of priority, so the service desk team knows is able to prioritize the incidents based on their priority and deal with them. And finally, there is a proper allocation of these requests to the right expert. And when it comes to service request, you will be able to collect the right data about the resource required so you can provide a proper employee experience. And there is a faster delivery of services because you don't get a lag in approvals. And finally, there is streamline communication where all communication between the service desk team and the end users are locked in one place. And when it comes to change government, you can have a customized approach to different changes, which will thus reduce your risk during deployment and increase your business uptime. So we'll now go ahead and see how you can configure custom dynamic templates for essential IT practices like incident management, service requests, and changes. So the first module I want to talk about is incident management. So Zilker wanted to streamline the incident resolution process by gathering relevant information. But this is not an easy task. Incident requests come from multiple sources and carry a wide variety of information. So, if you want to standardize the information collection, you need to build in structured templates that can help you achieve it. And using ServiceDesk Plus, not only can you create structured templates, but you can also give them a dynamic nature. You can implement automations within the templates to define a well-defined workflow. So I'll now take you into the product and we'll see how it's achieved. So before we go and see about incident templates, let me take you to an end user's login or a requester's login, and I'll show you how the form itself looks. So let's say I am an end user, I'm working in Zulker and I'm reporting an issue that my applications are crashing frequently. Now I am greeted with a form with a number of fields in it where I can add in information about my issue. I can say what type of request this is, what is the category of the issue I'm facing, the impact, and the urgency. And once I give these details, my service desk team or my help desk technicians are going to handle this. Now, this is the form. To build this form, I have to go into the administrator's login. So here I am logging in as the administrator, and this is the page I am greeted with. So once I log into this page, I can go to the admin tab, and here under templates we have incident template. So I can create a new template from scratch, but for now I'm going to take you to an existing template. So this is my template and this is where the form is built. So the form or the request form we just saw in the end user's login is merely an output of this template. So you can see that we are in the technician's view of this template. So you can see the technician tab is selected, meaning when a technician raises a request, they will be able to add in much more detailed information like what is the status of this request, what was the mode, the site, who's the group who should be handling this request, and so on. But an end user doesn't need to add all this information. So you can customize how this request should appear to a technician and an end user from the template. So thus, the same template will have two different views for two different users. So you can notice that some of the fields in my technician's layout are hard coded, like the name, the asset, or even the site field. So these fields cannot be removed from the template. They will be present in all templates by default. But other than this, we do have other removable fields like mode and request type, which you can remove or you can drag and drop them back if you need them. And once you add them to the template, they will be present. And if you want to add more fields customized to your requirements, you can use the add new field here. So we have the default fields present here. These are built into Service Desk Plus. But to add custom fields, you can use this icon. And we have a number of field types like single line, multi-line, numeric, and so on. If you want to provide fields where you have a number of options, so your end users can select one of the option, you can use a multi-select or radio or checkbox fields. So let's say I want to add a single line text. So I'm dragging and dropping this here, and I can define the field properties. I can give its name, and I can mark if this field holds personally identifiable information. So PII refers to the personal data within the application that end users usually given. And this could be anything from a user's name or their health information or their clinical data and so on. So if the user wants to be forgotten after a specific time, or if they want to exercise their right to be forgotten when they exit the organization, you can anonymize the user's data completely, and you can also encrypt such fields as well. So this ensures that the user's privacy is being respected. And then if you can add description and help text, this will help your technicians and your end users understand what kind of content or what kind of data they should be giving in this field. And then we have the mark as mandatory, which will mandate the field in the form. You can allow your requesters to set and view the fields if you want them to. And finally, you can add default values. So the default value will be present in the request form when a request is being created, but they will be editable. And you can decide if you want to add only numbers or give a fixed length, as in how much characters should this field hold, and so on. So you can click save and the field will be created. You can also customize the layout of a field by deciding if it should have a different font or a different background color. So I'm not going to create a field now, but if I go to an existing field, let's say request type, I can customize it to have a yellow color background. So this will highlight the field to mark its importance or its uniqueness. And similarly, you would notice that you can also customize sections as well and the whole field on the whole form if you wanted to. Now, you would have seen that all the fields are being grouped into various blocks. These blocks are called sections. And this request properties here is a double column section. Here, right below, we have a single column section. So you can create as many sections as you want using these options here. You can also create 3, 4, or flexible column sections. So once you've configured all of this data, you can scroll down and you have the resolution. So the resolution area is unique to incident templates. Here, let's say as the requester or the technician, after they create the request, if you want to provide a certain resolution or guidance to your users, you can add those fields, add those data here, and they will be reflected in the request details page. For example, if I take you to a request that is created previously, you would see that in the resolution tab, the same data is reflected. Thus, my end user can carry out the resolution themselves, or my technicians can use this to troubleshoot the issue. And then we have a short area where you can provide a description that is specific just to the technician alone. And finally, we can limit the template's access to specific support groups or user groups. If I want this template to be accessible only to network team, then I can select it here. And similarly, we have a very important option here called Show to Requester. If this option is not enabled, requesters will not be able to use this template. But once you enable this option, you can scroll right back up and you will have this requester tab up here where you can decide how the form should look for end users. Now you would see that this is quite similar to the end users form here, except a few fields are missing. So we'll see about why in a couple of moments. But here you can again define how you want the form to look for end users, and this is pretty much similar to technician's layout. So once you save the layout, you can go to workflow, and where you will be able to define the process of how this request should be handled, or how this template or request created from this template should be handled. So first we have the request lifecycle. So the request lifecycle is basically a way to guide your technicians on how a request should progress from one status to another status. To associate a lifecycle to a template, you need to go to the automation block and you can create a new request lifecycle. And after you provide the name and description, you can select the templates to whom this lifecycle must be associated with. So once you click save, the association will automatically appear in the workflow tab for these templates. So going back, we have the association present here, and then we have approval details. So if you're dealing with major incidents, especially, you would require approval before proceeding to implementing your resolution. In which case, you can configure if you want all of your approvers to approve or just any one of your approved to approve the request. Then we have checklists. So checklists are just little reminders you add in your request. They will help your technicians make sure that they are performing certain checks before they close the request. It's just a way to make sure that all T's are crossed and all I's are dotted. So you can associate checklists or create a checklist from scratch. You can give a name and description and add in the existing questions, or you can also create questions specific to you. Then you can scroll further and click save. Now I'm not adding a checklist. So once you add a checklist though, it will be visible only to technicians. So let me take you to a technician's view of the request. Here is the request. And here we have the checklist tab. So you can see this checklist is present here. You can expand it, make sure these checks are completed. And once it's done, you can select the status as verified. So after that, we have task details. So tasks are basically a way to break down the request into little parts and assign each part to different technicians. So let's say it's a major incident and the resolution is quite huge. A troubleshooting process itself is quite long, in which case you can create multiple tasks, assign them to different users, and collaborate with them to complete the request faster. So to associate a task, you can click Associate, select a task. Let's say I want to select this as my task and save. So we'll see about task templates in a while. But for now, I'm just associating a task. And once I associate the task, I can decide how this task should work in tandem with other tasks. So I can click the Dependencies Map and I can say I want this particular task to be completed only after the some other task is over. So let's say this is the task. I'm sorry, and let me click Select Parent. And once I click the parent task, a dependency will be mapped. So this will ensure that my child task can only be completed or started after my parent task is done. So once you figure out the order in which you want the task to be accomplished, you can then associate request properties to tasks. So let's say, for example, there is a particular task technician and they don't have access to request module, in which case they may not be able to complete the task without the required data. So instead of providing complete access to the request module, you can simply associate the request properties with the task template. So let's say I want the attachments, subject, and description to be associated. So now, even if my task technician does not have access to the request, they can still view the request description, subject, and attachments alone. And once I click associate, the icon will turn blue, indicating there are association present. Going further, we can also choose if you want your requesters to view the task, and you can choose to add the pre-configured task. These tasks that you associate here are the pre-configured tasks. You can choose to add them to the request only after the approval is complete. So if not, the task will be created along with the request as well. And finally, you can choose to trigger your task automatically or manually. So if you want a task to be triggered right after the request is created, you can enable them here, or you can trigger them after the request is approved, or again, you can trigger them manually from the task tab. So the task tab would be present here. And you can see that the pre-configured tasks are already added. So you can simply select them and trigger them if needed. So going back to the template, you can once you set all of this, you have a well-defined process in place. The next step is field and form rules. So the whole crux of this session is understanding how you can create dynamic templates. And this dynamic nature is achieved using field and form rules. So field and form rules are logic-based rules. When there is a certain logic that is met, a certain action is being executed, and this logic check is performed on the on the request form. So going back to the request, you remember that I was pointing out how some fields were missing here. But let's say I select incident, you will notice that some fields appear here. And let's say I select service request, the fields are missing. And kindly keep an eye on the impact field and the urgency field. They are not mandated. But if I select incident, they get mandated and the fields are appearing. This is what gives request a dynamic nature. Now, in some cases, you might have a huge form with a large number of fields, and your end users might be confused on what fields are actually needed, or they might even end up skipping a few fields. So to avoid that, you can use field and form rules to filter or narrow down the fields to be displayed even based on certain field values. So this is all achieved using field and form rules. So field and form rules can be executed in three events. One, when the form is loaded. As in, if I wait, you would when I selected this template, let me reselect it again. So when I select this template and load the form for the first time, I'm sorry, I selected the wrong template. Let me reselect that template from scratch. When I select this template for the first time, some fields are missing and the mandate is not applied. So this is achieved using on form load. So when a form is being loaded, I can hide fields, I can mandate fields, and these are not the only actions I can do. I can also enable fields, disable fields, I can add options, I can remove certain options within a field. For example, I can, let's say I have number of request types, I can show only two request types alone. I can also set task, I can show task, hide task, or execute scripts to provide any act, to perform any action. So these are the various actions available. Other than form load, we have field change. So as I was changing the request type, you would notice some fields appeared and disappeared or mandate happened. So this is all on field change. And finally, we have on form submit. So even if my end user enters some kind of information and submits, if their subject contains the following keywords, then I can update the request type as security issue right as the form is being submitted. So these are the three types of field rules. And if I want these field rules to be used across other incident templates, I can simply select them and convert them into global rules. This way, I can assign or associate the same field and form rule to multiple incident templates. So you would remember how we talked in Zilker that there was no proper way to measure priority. So going back to our end users form, let's say um, I select okay. Give me one moment. Let's add back the field. I removed it during the demo and save. And on refreshing the page, yes. So let's say I select incident and this category, subcategory and priority appear. But you will notice the priority is not specified. But if I select the impact as critical and the urgency as high, the priority is automatically updated as critical. So this is achieved using priority matrix. So priority matrix is present again in the customization block under help desk. So here we have a matrix with the columns as urgency and the rows as impact. And based on the if my impact is high and my urgency is urgent, I can update a priority value, and these values will be reflected as the requester is creating a request. So this will give the right priority to right matrix, and thus using templates you can provide a dynamic nature. You can make sure the right priority or even other values are captured, and you can route the tickets to the right technicians either using fill and form rules or by simply selecting the group and technician in the template by default. So this is how Zilker could overcome its struggles. Now we'll go back into the presentation let's and let's ensure that we covered all these points. So first we saw how you can organize the form layout and add custom fields, and then we saw how you can associate support groups and user groups to limit the template's accessibility. And then we saw how you can customize the form view for technicians and end users. And then we discussed on how you can create fill and form roles and create tasks and checklists. And finally, we saw how you can connect automations like request lifecycle and task dependency within the template. The next module I want to talk about is service request management. So Zilker wanted to implement a seamless process for handling service requests by collecting resource and cost details. So with ServiceDesk Plus, Zilker decided to systemize the service delivery using Service Catalog. So I'll now take you into the demo again and show you how you can set up a service catalog. So we have service catalog under templates and forms, and the service templates are grouped into various service categories. So you can create IT service category or business service category. And after you create categories, they will be reflected in the service catalog tab, where under each category you can create different services. So these would be your templates. Now, before we go into service templates, I want to take some time to discuss about resource questions and resource sections. So, as we were talking about a while ago, resources are a very vital part of service request management. So, you need to have the right questions in place to get the relevant information from your end users. So, instead of going to each template and creating questions within each template, you can simply create the questions globally and associate them to the relevant templates. So, this will help you cut back time as you even set up the template. So to create new questions, you can either create a plain text question to collect any information, or you can use the checkbox, radio, and drop down types to force your users to select from a given choices. So let me take you to an existing question. So you would see this question here. We have added the question name, and we have also the option to mark if this question contains personally identifiable information. and you can select the type. So you can also juggle between other types if needed, and you can enable the cost information for each resource. So thus, when a requester or even a technician is raising a request and they select these resources, the service cost will be calculated and shown to the technician who's handling the request. So they can look at the service cost and understand how much cost does this particular request incur. And you can also enable images if you want. You can add in multiple options. And another highlight of using resource questions is that you can import the options from the assets tab. So if you have your IT assets listed in the assets tab, you can add those products directly here, and the asset images or their service cost will also be brought in. And let's go back. And let's say we have an option here. I can edit the option, I can add details, multiple images, or I can add details about the object as well. And as my end user is creating a service request, they'll be able to view this information before they say if they want the product or not. So once you click this, save, click update. So, and once you click create these resource questions, you cannot add them directly to service templates. You have to rather group them into resource sections. So a resource section could contain a number of questions all related, and you can go and group associate this resource section directly to a service template. So to create a resource section, you can use this button and choose the questions you want to be present there. You can decide the layout, you can give it a name, or you can create new questions from here as well. Once you create a resource section, you can go to the service catalog, and let's say Zilker was wanted to create a template for onboarding new users or new employees. We have a template for that here. So this is again similar to your end users form. So here you can see that we have a number of fields present, but there are certain unique fields that are specific to service request templates, such as the editor field and the Selector Progress field. So the editor or the service request editor is a user who can edit the service request once after it is created. Let's take the use case of a HR employee who is raising the user onboarding request. So they've given the new employee's name and other details, but the HR will not be aware of what kind of laptop this employee needs or what kind of software they need to work with. So those kind of information is not only to the team lead. So the HR can assign the team lead as the editor and create the request. And once the request is created, it will go to the team lead and move to on hold status. And after the team lead provides the update, the request will go back to its usual workflow. And then we have the select approvers. So here the end users can select the relevant approvers by themselves. So this way the approvers will be notified through the application and there will be no unwanted delay. And finally, we have the details and the resource info. So the resource info was what we were talking about a while ago. So in this section, let's say I have removed this complete section. Let's say I removed this question. And now if I want to add this section, I can simply click add resource. I can either select the questions and give a resource section name, or I can just choose my existing resources and associate them to the template. So they will be listed, and as my end users are selecting it, they'll be able to view all details about these resources. And sometimes beyond the resources, there are also other costs such as delivery costs, taxes, and so on. So all these can be added in the service cost area. So let me take a moment to show you how this service cost works. So here we have the template, and here we have the request module, and here there is a request created using the same template. Let me open it. And here you would see that we have the resource details and the service cost along with its breakup. So this way my technicians are aware of what kind of, how much cost this request would entail. And if, let's say, I am creating a new request as a technician and I am selecting the template. So here I will be able to see the total cost already. And let's say I want to select the resources. I can view the details of the resources like I was telling. I can view its information and its cost here. I can this way move across multiple resources. And let's say I'm selecting these resources in place. So Now you can see that the total cost is being updated already. And here again, I can view how much cost each resources. So this will literally give you a shopping cart experience where you get in all you as you select the application tells you how much cost you have put in place. Now going back, we have you have a way to limit the service request templates to specific user groups or support groups as well, and you can also show them to requesters. So once you go to your requesters tab, you can this is again very similar to incident templates. You configure all the details here, and then you move into the workflow tab. Now the service requests follow a different workflow from the incident requests. So while we have lifecycle for service request as well, which you can create and associate, when it comes to approvals, service requests would have multiple levels of approvals because they are cost incurring requests. You would want to cross check it more than once. So this way you can create up to 5 levels of approvals within a service request template. And for each level, you can associate multiple users. So let's say I have a level 2 here with an approver and a organization role. Now, using organization roles is very beneficial because even if my approver is or this user is to suddenly say go inactive or exit the organization, then the approvals in their table would be pending, and when a new user comes in, all the approvals will have to be manually moved to them, and that could be a long task. Instead, if you add in organization roles, even if the user exits the organization, a new user can be simply associated to the existing role and they will be able to automatically take over the pending approvals. And then you can configure the other approval configurations, like if you want to apply the first approval action or if you want all approvers to approve and so on, and save it. And we have SLAs. So SLAs are service level agreements, and they are simply a way for you to keep the expectations of end users in check. So if my end user is raising a service request, through the SLA you can define when that service request should be responded and when it should be resolved. And if that specified time is crossed, then the SLA violation is marked to the technician. So here, as we were creating the request, you would have seen this option here. So if you have multiple SLAs associated, you can select which SLA should be applied for this template or for this request, and it will be done so. And going back to my end users login under the request tab, you would see that there are some flags present. So these indicate SLA violation. Similarly, my technicians will also be notified about SLA violations. Here you can see that there is a delay in the response and the resolution as well. So this is how SLAs work. Thus your end users are also aware that by now they should have received something and they're not. So you can configure escalations within the SLA. If it is violated, the SLA could automatically be escalated to a different user or a user group. Then we have checklist, which is again similar to incident templates. We have task details as well. And after task, we have template actions. Now, template actions are unique to service requests. Here in template actions, you can perform certain actions in other integrated products using service request. Let's say, for example, a user wants to add themselves to a group in ADMP or add AD Manager Plus. Now, AD Manager Plus is a product under Manage Engine, which is different from ServiceDesk Plus. Now, if a user is raising the request and the technician has to go through the request, get approval, go to AD Manager Plus, they have to find the group, find the user, and map the user to the group. Now, this is a long process. Instead, you can enable the template action. And once a request is created, all the technician has to do is go to the request details page. Let me go there for a moment. And once the details page opens up, they can go to the custom actions menu. So here the template action is automatically displayed. So they can simply select the action and the AD Manager Plus UI will be fetched, or the product itself will be fetched into ServiceDesk Plus, and the technician can add the user to the group right away. So this will help them resolve or perform the action faster. Now, template actions can only be enabled if the integration already is set up between ServiceDesk Plus and the other product. And finally, we have field and form rules. So field and form rules are again very similar to incident templates, they provide a dynamic nature to service requests. So if you want, based on the resource answers, you can modify certain fields, you can show more resource questions, and so on. So going back into the product, into the presentation, we saw how you can exhibit cost details for a service. We saw how you can show the required resources to deliver a service. We then saw how you can configure multiple approvals to process the request. So, and we saw how you can set deadlines to ensure a timely service delivery, and how you can enable template actions to process service requests. So now, through various fields like editors and resource questions, you can make sure that there is adequate data for your service desk team to handle the request. You can overcome delayed approvals using multi-level approvers or even the select approvers field. And finally, using resource sections and other options, you can ensure there is a smooth communication between your service desk team and the users. The next model I want to talk about is change management. Now, unlike incident management or service request management, change management involves bringing multiple people, process, and data together to implement a change. Now, Zilker decided to systemize this process of governing different types of changes using change templates. So in ServiceDesk Plus, you have change templates under templates and forms, and you can create different types of change templates for different types of changes. For standard changes, you can have a template. For emergency changes, you can create different templates. You can also create multiple templates specific to your organization. Now we have a template in place already, and as after you create a template, you can associate workflows to the template. Now, workflows are how you can decide which way should this change be handled. So you can outline the flow of the change in the automation block, and after you publish the workflow, you can associate the workflow to various change templates. So if a change request is created using this template, the workflow will be automatically applied as well. And after you configure the basic details, you can again add new fields, simply drag and drop them, or you can remove them if you don't want. You can also edit a field to mandate it. And if you want to add a custom fields, you can use this option here, drag and drop it to the canvas, provide the details, and click OK. So we have a number of fields here like impact and services affected. So this will give you an idea of how this change, of how risky this change is, or we even have the risk field as well. So using this, you can decide how you want to roll out the change. You can have backup plans in place and so on. And you will notice that some roles like change manager and change owner are present within the details tab. So these are prominent roles. So you can assign only one technician to these roles. But the change could also involve other supporting roles, and those roles are present under change roles tab. So here we have other roles such as the line manager, the reviewer, and so on. If you have available roles, you can drag and drop them, or you can create a new role as well. So to create new roles, you can go to the customization block. Under change management, we have change roles tab. When you click add, you can add a new role, and you can decide if only technicians should be assigned to this role, or you can also associate end users to a change role. And you can provide their access permissions and click save. All roles that you create in this page will be reflected in change templates automatically. You can drag and drop them to include them in the change template. And finally, we have field and form rules, which once again give a dynamic nature to the change template. So going back into the product, we saw how you can build templates for different change scenarios. We saw how you can loop in the change stakeholders using change roles tab, and how you can couple change templates with the change workflows as well. And finally, we saw how you can empower end users to be part of a change by associating them to specific change roles. And now the other models I want to talk about are releases and projects. So while you can create custom and dynamic templates for incident service requests and changes, for releases and projects, you can create custom templates, meaning there is no dynamic nature to them, but you can still customize them as per your requirements. So we'll go ahead and see one by one. So when it comes to release management, Zilka wanted to manage the release planning and deployment by capturing the details of a release precisely. So this will they were hoping to reduce the business downtime this way. So going into the product, you can achieve this using release templates. So we have release templates present here, and you can create a new template or go to an existing template, and you can define the template's basic details and associate the release workflow. Release workflow is very similar to change workflow. You configure it in the automation tab, and it will be reflected here. So you can associate a workflow to this release. You can specify the basic details of a release, and you can customize the layout of this release template form. And once you decide all of this, you can select the business impact and so on. And if you want, you can add in new fields as well. So once you set up the release template, you can go to the roles tab, where you have the critical roles, which are the prominent roles I was talking about in change template. And then you have the other supporting roles present. Now, one unique thing between release template and change template is the role UAT owner. This role is built into ServiceDesk Plus. You can remove them from templates, but by default, they are usually present in templates because user acceptance testing is a vital part of release. If there is a huge change planned in place, like server infrastructure upgrade, then there will be a release request created to slowly plan and implement this change because it cannot be rolled out in one day. So, in which case, before you roll the change to the live audience, you would want to test the change in a control group called the beta group. So, this is called the UAT stage, and UAT stages usually have a user presiding in and acting in charge of the activities. So, this would be the UAT owner, and they can be added to the release requests. So, this is how you set up release requests. So the next module is project management. So Zilker wanted to plan its changes and bring them to live environments using projects. Now we have multiple project management tools. By managing projects in Service Desk Plus, you can complement change and release module as well. So you can keep a tab on your projects using project templates. So in the application, once again, we have project templates present here. You can create a new project template, but project templates are very different from the other templates. The fields are hard coded here, meaning you cannot add in custom fields, but you can define the details. And once you save the project template, you will be able to configure milestones, tasks, and members within the project template. So you can break down the project into different stages, and each stage would be a milestone. And usually within each milestones, you would have a set of tasks, which can again be configured here. And you can mark dependencies between the tasks. Now, if you want to add tasks that are not relevant to any milestone, you can go directly to the task tab, where all tasks within the milestones will be fetched, and you can create more tasks if you want. And if you want to overview all the tasks in visual map, you can use the overview icon here. So here you can get a dependency of the overview of the dependencies between multiple milestones, the tasks in each milestone, and how the tasks are dependent across other tasks as well. And then we have the members tab. So projects would have multiple members working on it. And in Service Desk Plus, if you want to assign a user as a project member, you have to go to the user's details page to give them the project permissions. But otherwise, you can also associate a user to a project from the template itself. So in the members tab, you can go to the add icon and select a user. Let's say I want to add this user as a team leader. I can also associate other project roles and simply add them. And anytime a project is created using this template, all these users will be automatically assigned to the project. And from there on, they can add in other users as well. So this is how project templates work. The last few templates I want to discuss about are tasks, resolutions, and replies. So task templates are very fundamental. You would have noticed they kept appearing over and over in incident service as well. And even in change and release, while tasks are not present in template, you can still add tasks after the change or release is created. So task templates are therefore very fundamental to all modules. And to create task templates, you can use this option here. But if I were to take you to an existing task template, you would once again notice this is also a hard-coded form. All the fields are present by default. You can decide if you want this task template to appear to all modules using the general option, or you can limit the task template just to request or project module. And another unique thing about task templates is you can mark or assign the group and owner. So let's say I want this particular task to be handled by the network group and any user within the network group. Now, instead of assigning the task right away to this group and owner, I can make the task wait in any module wherever it is. I can make it wait until the task is triggered. And if the task is triggered, it will be auto assigned to the group and owner. So that's the difference between marking and assigning right away. And other than task, we have reply templates. Now, reply templates are basically a way to give canned responses to your users. So instead of repeating the same information over and over again, you can simply create a template and you can use the new button here, add the template name, provide the information. You can use the dollar icon here to fetch details about the request. This is specific to request module. So you can create and say description. So when the reply is going, the description of the request will be directly used to replace this variable, and you can limit the template just to you or make it accessible to other users. So once you create a reply template, you can go to the request details page, and let's say I want to reply to this user. I can click hit reply and I can select the template from here. So I can say I need more details here, and the details appear. I can add in further information if I want here and send it to the user right away. So this is how reply templates work. The last template we want to talk about is resolution template. So a while ago, when we were in incident templates, we saw how you can provide resolution right within the template. But in some cases, an incident could have multiple pathways of troubleshooting and therefore multiple resolutions. So in which case, instead of overcrowding the resolution tab with too much of information, you can create resolution templates. And after a request is created, you can go to the request details page, and under resolution, you can select the template and the details will be automatically populated. This will also be useful if your incident request template doesn't have a resolution and you want to add a resolution later on at some point in time. So to create resolution templates, you can click add new, enter your details and provide description. You can add different kinds of formatting to highlight and click save and it will be done. So to give a quick recap of everything we discussed, we saw how you can streamline incident resolution by gathering relevant information and how you can deliver proper service to your users by displaying resource, cost, and workflow information. We then saw how you can collaborate with different people and plan your processes to implement changes effectively, and how you can deploy releases with minimal downtime using release templates. Then we checked out how you can track your projects using project templates. And then we saw a few other useful templates like task resolutions and replies in ServiceDesk Plus. Thank you, folks, for joining in. Before you go, I want to go over a few more resources that can help you further. So we have an admin guide that has a complete documentation on how ServiceDesk Plus on-premise product works. We also have release notes that notify users on when we release new features or issue fixes and enhancements and so on. We also have a huge repository of product videos in our YouTube channel. You can check them out anytime. And we have a community where you can communicate with your peers, and a support portal where you can get in touch with our support team. And finally, at any point in time, if you want to have a doubts clarified, you can always get in touch with hello@servicedeskplus.com. So thank you all for being a wonderful audience. I hope this session was very useful to you, and I hope you can continue to hack dynamic templates in the coming days. So until we meet again, this is Steffi Benjamin signing off on behalf of Manage Engine.